The chairman of BUA Group, Abdul Samad Rabiu, said that the unification of foreign exchange rates in Nigeria is a welcome development necessary to attract investors into the country. Speaking with CNBC Africa's Kenneth Igombor on the sidelines of the ongoing Afrexim Bank annual meetings in Accra, Ghana, he says prior to the policy, the paucity of supply was a challenge, hence FX liquidity is paramount.
Yes, it is very important, and we must note and appreciate the important role that DFIs, development finance institutions, play, especially in Africa. DFIs are key, very, very important, because for us to develop, we need, capital, huge, amount of money to develop, and that can only come from the DFIs because, they can give you a long-term facility, also low interest rate, and also the fact that without that kind of capital, you'll not be able to develop. And in Africa, as we know, and as I've always said, there are so many areas where we need to do quite a lot of work to be able to develop. Food security, mining, manufacturing, and so many other areas. Infrastructure as well. For us to be able to develop, we really need the DFIs. If you look at what is going on now, we have always said it, and we've always known that Africa is immensely blessed with huge, resources, with the human capital, a continent of almost 1.3, 1.4 billion people with a landmass of over 30 million square kilometers. 65% of that land is arable land, yet we have issues, in terms of feeding ourselves, in terms of being able to process and add value to what we have, which is a problem, for a lot of the countries in Africa. Because if you look at, say, for example, as, I've always maintained, the kind of resources that we have in Africa, we do not add any value at all. So, but for us to do that, or to be able to address most of those issues, we need, capital, and that capital can only come from the DFIs. Yeah. So, I think it must be appreciated. The DFIs, all of them, the Afrexim, African, Development Bank, and African, Finance Corporation, and even IFC, they are all looking to, support the continent, and that is very, very important. Hence the reason why I think, leaders like Professor Orama are doing what they are doing, and I think it's a welcome development. Hence the reason why we're here.
Yeah, because it's quite interesting that this is happening in the context where we're seeing quite a lot happen in Nigeria right now. Mm-hmm. We've seen sweeping reforms play out in the country, yes. And I can imagine as a business leader like yourself, quite a lot of I've interviewed CEOs of some of your companies talking about the challenges they've had with FX over the years. Yeah. And we're seeing these sweeping reforms coming in place. And I'd like you to speak to, what you make of these reforms and how that is impacting your business.
Well, again, I believe, what is happening in Nigeria today, I take it you are talking about the,
yes,
foreign exchange issue, the unification of the FX. I think it is a positive thing. We all know that for quite some time, the government has, I would say that it has controlled the FX rate. So what this does, in my opinion, is that it allows investors to bring in money. Because if you look at it, the official exchange rate, has always been much below what the actual exchange rate is. So a lot of investors were not comfortable, bringing money at a rate that we've always known that, or we knew that was not really the actual rate. So what this does is that it gives, a balance. It allows investors to come in and invest. Because for me, as an investor and also as a businessman in Nigeria, it has always been, very challenging. Because you have a situation where the official exchange rate being at between $450 to $500, although it depends, because you have forwards, you have spot, and all of that. Yeah. And then also, what I call the parallel market at maybe over 600, 650 naira, it was always an issue. So that, I think, is a good thing. It will balance, this whole thing, and then it will give the.
So you say long term is net positive?
I think it is, definitely, without a doubt. Because at the end of the day, you'll be able to. You see, the most important thing is having the liquidity. Because the government, could not supply everything that was needed. So now with this, we'll be able to see a lot more inflows coming in from, all over. And with that, it will now give us the opportunity to be able to access foreign exchange, a lot more than what ordinarily you would be. As an example, BUA Group, we need, in excess of $50 to $60 million, every month in terms of, our foreign exchange needs. It is impossible for you to be able to get that from the central bank. So you'd have to be looking, from other sources to get effects. But with this, I believe that, at the end of the day, people will bring in money, investors will come in, and it will definitely, help. And so I think it is a positive thing, without a doubt.
Yeah, finally, as we leave Accra now, what has been your key takeaways? Because we've had many conversations play out here. We've heard presidents talk about the issues that pertain to the continent here. We've heard, even Aliko Dangote, the businessman, also mentioned some issues that he would love to see resolved on the continent here. But for you, what is that key takeaway from the conversations here?
Well, you see, the thing is, we have the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. I think we need to try as much as possible to see that we enhance that, we strengthen that. And we can only do that, if we all come together, right? And this is what I'm hearing. All the leaders agree that there is a need for us to actually try and do as much as we can to strengthen that. The continent is a $3.4 billion, market, right? And if we come together, we're able to and are able to, maybe trade within the continent, add value to what we have. I think it would be a great thing. So we really need to do, to be able to do that. And if we're able to do that, I think, the sky is the limit for Africa, without a doubt.